So I welcome everyone again for attending the AGM in Australia's Red Centre. I'd also like to welcome those who are joining us through live streaming. It's a pleasure to be presenting from Alice Springs. Each year, MLA rotates the location of its AGMs to allow as many members the opportunity to participate as possible. The location of this year's AGM is a wonderful contrast to last year's, which was held in the Adelaide Hills, which just reinforces the diversity and nature of the industry we serve. Red Meat 2017 has certainly lived up to a promise of offering a jam-packed program, consisting of producer tours, forums, trade shows, and a host of networking events. We thank all of you that have engaged in these program activities, and we're always interested in receiving feedback as we plan for next year's AGM. Yesterday, our producer tour led attendees to Undula Station, a 144,000 hectare cattle property that's been in Ben and Nicole Hayes' family for more than 100 years. A big thank you to Ben, Nicole and their daughter Nikita for the tour of their impressive operation and for their generous support and time. At Undula Station, producers were able to see cutting-edge on-farm technologies in action. These are funded by Meat and Livestock Australia and the MLA Donor Company, including an unmanned vehicle, an Aerodyne drone demonstration, and the latest in digital mapping. At the trade show, in the room next door, if you haven't been in there, we've got more innovations on show. A 3D meat printer, a nuke tech, the CT scanner, and virtual reality headsets on display, but be aware, they make you feel really sick if you get dizzy. But amazing footage. So from one who got really sick from watching it. If you've already seen them, if you already haven't been in there, I encourage you to have a look after the AGM. This morning's producer forum provided a whistle-stop tour of topics ranging from global demand trends through to where producers should be investing on farm to meet consumer needs. It was fantastic to hear some insights from several of our MLA experts on the future of the industry and what's being done to sustain our competitiveness. Now I've got some key insights from beef, sheep and goat markets to share with you. I'll then cover the business of the MLA board. MLA's Managing Director Richard Norton will then cover some of the highlights for the year as well as the business financial performance. Finally, he will discuss the challenges and opportunities that the red meat and livestock industry faces in the future. Now to the markets. Even in the midst of intense competition from overseas markets, as well as cheaper proteins on home soil, Australian red meat fought hard to hold its place on menus and dinner tables this year. A dry winter for several key regions was not made any easier by the rising energy costs, leading to increased supply chain pressure across the industry. Despite the challenges of a poor season, low turn-off and stiff competition, the total value of the red meat and livestock industry reached $22.1 billion in 2016-17. Although this is 6% lower than last year, producers should be proud of this incredible result in the face of adversity. In the beef industry, the 2016-17 financial year saw Australian cattle prices trend below years ago, or last year. Although the market softened over the 12-month period, prices were, in comparison to the record high prices of 2016, have lowered somewhat, but they remain considerably higher than the 5-year average. The slow but steady rise of the national cattle herd suggests that the peak in prices is now behind us. While it's unlikely that they'll drop back to pre-2013 levels, the records of the last 2 years are not forecast to return in the near future. Despite this, the strong restocker activity, a reliable, stable Australian dollar, and the reduced tariffs in Japan, Korea, and China are all factors in sustaining prices above the 5-year average. On the global front, beef markets remain in a state of flux. The US continues to challenge Australia's position as one of the main exporters to North Asia and is now in the process of regaining direct access to the key Chinese market. Also, quality concerns over Brazilian beef has led to indefinite market closures, while the Indian government has attempted to ban the slaughter of buffalo and cattle through livestock markets. Despite the developments overseas, the Australian beef exporters are forecast to exceed 1 million tonnes for the 5th year in a row. In the domestic market, retail prices have softened slightly. This is likely to relieve the decline in per capita consumption trend, with beef being around 26.7 kilos per person. Although a 5% increase year on year, the major challenge ahead remains with cheaper proteins of chicken and pork. We must continue to market our beef as a premium product, as we heard at breakfast this morning. Our recent campaigns, such as the Australian beef, the greatest, have done an excellent job in illustrating this. If I had now turned you to the sheep meat market, the dry winter provided similar outcomes for the lamb industry as it did for beef. Poor seasonal conditions led to production levels falling below 2% despite heavier carcass weights in 2017. Although production was still 7% above the 5-year high average, the limited supplies available in key regions across the country have resulted in a lack of confidence among processors. The capacity of processors has reduced this year due to the temporary and has led to temporary and permanent plant closures, which in turn presents a real risk to lamb and sheep if the availability continues, if the availability begins to rise. Sheep meat export volumes have also fallen short of levels compared to last year. While volumes to the Middle East fell 10% and shipments to the US declined, Australian exports to China for the calendar year to June experienced growth of 16% year on year. A competitive advantage for Australian lamb to tap into the Chinese market may appear as New Zealand's supply eases and their production season winds down. Even taking that into account, lamb's limited supply this year, domestic consumption is not expected to feel the pressure. The average per capita consumption is projected to remain at between 9 and 9.5 kilos for the next 3 years per person. Despite the uncertainty in the sheep and lamb industry, sale yard indicators have lingered above last year. Regardless of market fluctuations, results from the June 2017 MLA and Australian Wool Innovation and sheep meat surveys indicate that producers still have strong confidence in the sector. If I now turn to the goat industry, the US remains the largest and most valuable export market for Australian goat meat in 2017. The increasing population of American consumers with Hispanic, Muslim and Caribbean backgrounds has been the major driver behind this, due to goat meat being a family favourite among those nationalities. Australia's position as the world's largest goat exporter, along with growing global demand, will provide support to the market over the coming year. While it's a challenge this year for our levy payers, the MLA board has remained consistent in its approach to levy investment. Fostering the long-term prosperity of beef, lamb and goat meat industry remains the key focus of the board in 2017 and beyond. Through investment in research, development and marketing, we're always looking to improve the Australian red meat and livestock industry's productivity and profitability, as well as providing direction and oversight of the MLA's strategic plan 2016 to 2020, which is now well into its second year. The MLA board now sits across MLA's 2 subsidiary companies, which have come into place this year. The Integrity Systems Company and the MLA Donor Company operate to drive improvements in the profitability, global competitiveness and sustainability of the Australian red meat industry. The Integrity Systems Company is a true reflection of our industry's commitment to world-leading efficient systems and processes. Livestock producers are dedicated to standing by what they sell, and through the streamlined structure and management of our traceability and quality assurance systems, this has become easier in 2017. For example, this year MLA launched a single sign-on feature online, allowing producers to log into key integrity and information systems such as LPA, NVD, NLIS, MSA, and LDL, using one username and password. The introduction of the electronic national vendor declarations and enhancements to the LPA program are also prime examples of the company's approach to the incredibly important industry programs that are in place, and they are underpinning our market access in over 100 countries around the world. Under these programs, accredited producers commit to carrying out on-farm practices that underpin the integrity of the livestock they produce and deliver on promises to our customers that our industry is safe and ethical and produces products of the same. MLA's other subsidiary company is the MLA Donor Company, and that's continued to accelerate innovation across the supply chain. The MLA board saw a strategic opportunity for MDC to shoulder a larger role. With levy income declining, we know that the donor company would need to fill the gap to maintain the industry's momentum in innovation. We would have seen a number of MDC projects, or you would have seen them, initiatives over our trade exhibition, as well as during the producer tour, demonstrating the incredible work of MDC in research and development. This work serves to lift the competitiveness and sustainability and profitability of our industry right across the value chain. The Producer Innovation Fast Track program is especially exciting and interesting. The MDC program is designed to accelerate the adoption of technology that has potential to improve on-farm and value chain performance in our industry. The responses from producers to this program has exceeded our expectations, with MDC receiving 85 applications involving more than 100 producers. This demonstrates the growing appetite of producers to invest and engage in innovation and adoption of new technologies. In closing, I'd like to thank the MLA employees for all their work over the last 12 months. It hasn't gone unnoticed. There's tireless efforts in contributing to success of this industry, both in beef, lamb and goat, and it hasn't gone unnoticed by the board. I'd especially like to acknowledge the Australian government as it continues to provide matching dollars for the research projects we invest in each year. The support is extraordinarily valuable to the Australian red meat industry and the livestock industry. Without it, we probably wouldn't be able to deliver the same amount of research and development and adoption as you see today. Although Richard Norton will cover the highlights shortly, I particularly like to mention the Australian Government's Rural R&D for Profit program. This program is currently providing unmatched grants to the rural and research development corporations, of which MLA is one, for strategic research that delivers outcomes to Australian producers. It's cross-sectoral programs, so it's many RDCs in one of the projects. Although still in the early stages, I can already see the initiative will be a huge contributor to the future prosperity of our industry and agriculture. It's also important to mention the work of the MLA board itself in 2017. The board's #1 responsibility is to provide strategic oversight and direction to the company, a responsibility that each of your directors takes very seriously. This AGM also witnesses the departure of 2 of our really dedicated board members. Firstly, Jeff Maynard, who served as a director since 2011. We both joined together in Longreach, only a 7-hour AGM. Hopefully this one's faster. Retires from the board to focus on managing his cattle property in central Queensland. Jeff's been a really good contributor, not only to board discussions, but the camaraderie around the board table. And Jeff's departing words, or his words during his board tenure, have always been to me, it's not what I can do for MLA, it's not what MLA can do for me, it's what I can do for MLA. And he's hosted many groups of people at his home and Alison's home, and we thank Jeff for his contributions to the industry. Secondly, I'd like to acknowledge and thank Chris Myrams for his service and thoughtful contributions at the board. And over the last 3 years, he's really contributed at many levels with Sheepmeat Council as it was, and on the MLA board in terms of our sheep projects, and we wish you well in your further endeavours. The board would also like to take the opportunity to thank the Peak Industry Councils. Our Peak Industry Councils are Cattle Council of Australia, Sheepmeat Council of Australia, now known as Sheep Producers Australia, Australian Lot Feeders Association, and the Goat Industry Council of Australia. The diligence of these councils in overseeing MLA's yearly performance, plans and budgets on behalf of you, the levy payer, has been outstanding. Further, to the announcement of Dr. Kat Giles, for those who don't know, has resigned from Sheep Producers Australia, I would like to take the opportunity to thank Kat for her invaluable contributions to driving change in the sheep meat industry on behalf of MLA. We wish her all the best in her future endeavours. So wherever Kat you are, good luck in the future. Or good luck. Lastly, I'd like to thank each of you as levy payers for joining us at this AGM, as well as those who might be live streaming from other regions across the country. It's been a year of delivery despite adversity for both MLA and levy payers, and the Australian red meat and livestock industry sees challenges and opportunities ahead. MLA will continue to ensure your levy dollars are invested in programs which are of value to the industry, embrace innovation and contribute to the prosperity of beef, lamb and goat meat, both now and into the future. Thank you very much for your attendance.